Okay, hey guys, so I'm getting like a very late start on today's videos. This is literally 5:45 at night, like in the afternoon. We had a bunch of stuff we had to do today, and I obviously had to go work out, I'm getting fat. But anyways, I wanted to do kind of like a chatty get ready with me, talking about Kai and stuff, like talking about like when I was pregnant with him and like in labor and delivery and stuff like that. I also wanted to test out this Pat McGrath Midnight Voyage palette, like so bad, because it kind of looks like Jesus, kind of like engraving kind of thing. It's like, I'm very excited for that. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get started. Let's talk about, like I said, when I was pregnant with Kai. So I actually had a lot of issues when I was pregnant with Kai. I was like pretty sick. So I was actually quite sick when I was pregnant with Kai. If you don't know, I actually had pre-eclampsia, which is like high blood pressure when you're pregnant, which is not good. My blood pressure was pretty high. It was like 200, over 100 in that area towards my end of my pregnancy. But it was pretty like high towards the end of my pregnancy. There was I had like a ton of issues. I wasn't able to keep food down. I swear my son is too polite. So I was pretty sick when I was pregnant with Kai, like second trimester, like in the 6 month area. I had actually started like losing weight, and I had this thing happen to me where basically I wasn't hungry. I didn't eat for like 3 days, and it really concerned my parents like pretty bad. So what ended up happening was I had finally told my doctor, like, hey, I can't get hungry. And that was my problem, is that I actually didn't feel hungry. I think the only thing I had ate in those 3 days was like a pack of crackers or something like that. And it was basically like originally, so it really had built up. So what I mean by that is I started to get sick off food around like 4 months, like certain foods and drinks. And then, I'd find something that would work, and it would work like a little bit for a little bit, and then I'd get sick off of that once I got used to it, I guess you could say. And eventually it just kind of got to the point to where I actually physically couldn't keep any food down. And I'm so nervous about using this for the first time because I know some people have had bad experiences with it. So nervous. But anyways, I want to play with makeup. I want to be in a better mood. I finally had a doctor's appointment, and I told my doctor about it. And I remember the conversation I had with my doctor, because my doctor is actually like pretty young. She's close to my age, and she's delivered both my kids and done my surgeries, so she knows pretty much everything at this point about my situation. I remember telling her, because it was like towards the end of my appointment, and I remember telling her, she was like, is there anything else you have a question about? And I remember telling her, I just can't get hungry. And that was when she kind of looked at me and like could tell I was being serious. So she stopped for a second and she went to her computer, and that was when I found out I was losing weight. I didn't think of it this way, but I think that other pregnant people should. So that's why I want to say it. But so when she found out I was losing weight, that it kind of was like a hit to the gut for one reason, but the other reason was that this is like not sticky. And I do have Night Creature, I think is the name of the shade. Yeah, Night Creature. It's from Subversive. I do own Subversive, so that's weird. I worked with Night Creature. It's one of my favorite shades in Subversive. Okay. But anyways, I remember telling her like just everything, and her reaction was, if you're not gaining weight and you're losing weight, which I at that point was losing weight, it is bad for the baby, because that means the baby is losing weight. And I didn't really put two and two together and think like, Okay, so the baby is losing weight. So they put me on some medication, and honestly, I had to be on 2 different kinds of medications. I had to be on the medication for, like, to keep the food down. I really can't remember what they're called, and I don't really feel comfortable putting it out there, like what they could be, because you know how people are medicines nowadays. But anyways, so I remember like telling her, and they put me on the medicine. I remember telling her like I had to go back every week. This later, like from like that point on, I had to go back every week because they were so concerned. And I remember telling her like, yeah, the medicine is working, and I was so afraid to not have that medicine. Like if I didn't have, like, because I was on Medicaid at the time, so I was like, and Medicaid would only pay for that medicine every 30 days. So if they didn't give me a 30-day supply, which they didn't, I would run out of that medicine and I wouldn't be able to eat. Luckily, my parents are awesome, and they decided to pay out of pocket for the medication for me. So that was good. I also had to be on heartburn medicine because I had heartburn. Because Kai came out with hair, obviously. And if you don't know, apparently, when kids have hair, you are going to have heartburn, and that is a sign that they are going to have hair. I remember telling my mom, I think I have heartburn. And my mom being like, yep, he has hair. And then, like, a few appointments later, they were like, you want to see his hair? And they, like, actually could point out his hair on the ultrasound, and it was so cute. Like, it was amazing. It was amazing. It really was. The experiences with Kai, like, are so drastically different from my experience with Jackson, from my experience, like, Hayden, Emma. You know, it's just, like, it's really crazy. And my mom and I were actually talking about it a little bit earlier today, and I'm also using the medium shade from the It Cosmetics' original CC cream. I'm trying it out. Because I am thinking about wearing this makeup for a while. Like, obviously not a very, very long while. It's almost 6 o'clock, but I don't know. I want to do some stuff. I think I want to play a video game, which I don't usually typically do until the kids are asleep, which I'm still not going to do that until the kids are asleep, but doesn't mean I can't look pretty, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyways, so basically I get on this medicine and I stayed on it until I had Kai. Now let's talk. I still had issues. Kai wasn't kicking when he was supposed to, so my doctor's visits would always be like, would always end afterwards with me being hooked up to this machine, and they would actually count his kicks because like it was that bad. Like it was that bad. And you know, I talked about it a little. I had preeclampsia. Brandon used to think it was funny to upset me, and he's admitted this before. Like he said, like he thought it was funny when I would get angry. Don't upset the pregnant lady in your life, please. You know, it's fine now. I mean, can't really change what happened, so it doesn't really matter. But I do think that that definitely attributed to me having preeclampsia because, like, you know, the rise in heart rate and the blood pressure, like all that stuff, like just getting angry. So, basically, when I went to my last appointment, which was July 15th, I always love telling this story because it's kind of crazy. So I went to my appointment, it was on July 15th, and my due date, which was the date that they were going to induce me, was July 23rd. So, it was getting pretty close. So, I went on July 15th, and we had plans with Brandon's sister later that day. We were going to go swimming because she lived near the beach, but we were just going to go to her neighborhood pool. So we had plans for that, and my blood pressure was 200 over 100 with Kai on this day, and they kind of like, they keep track of everything, so they saw a increase in my blood pressure. So obviously, like, when they put my blood pressure in, they could see like the increase over time of my blood pressure going just up and up and up and up and up. And I got so scared because one of the nurses was like, you might have to have this baby today because we can't get your blood pressure down no matter what we do. And that's not safe for the baby, obviously. They made the decision to test me for preeclampsia that day, so I had my blood drawn. I luckily didn't have to see the doctor because I probably would not have been able to, but I was able to convince the nurse midwife to let me come back tomorrow, and I was like, I got things I gotta do. I don't want to have this baby today. I have to go. I did not want to get induced. I was so scared. I was so scared. So she let me go if I promised to come back the next day. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I'm gonna be mentally prepared then. So that was literally me. I was like, okay, I need to just mentally prepare because I was just so nervous. So I got my blood drawn, but then I check out and make an appointment for the next day at 9 o'clock because that is what the nurse midwife wanted, was 9 o'clock. So Brandon actually would work at this store called this Bojangles, and he would work morning shift, and he actually had to work the next day. So the original plan was for my dad to take me to my appointment. But I had this just feeling, this premonition, I guess you could say. I don't care what y'all want to call it, but I had this feeling that I was going to have Kai the next day because I just so immediately knew they were going to induce me because I knew in my heart I had preeclampsia. Like, I knew in my heart. I didn't need to be confirmed. I just knew in my heart it was bad, and it was better for him to be delivered. So I knew that they were going to induce me. So I told Brandon about my feeling. I told everybody about it. Brandon's family did not believe me. Like, they were like, you don't want to have the baby tomorrow. You don't want to have preeclampsia. It's like, no shit. No one wants to have preeclampsia. But if I do, I can't help it. You know, like, I couldn't stop if they wanted to take the baby the next day. So all I could do was mentally prepare myself for having a child because I was so nervous. So that's what I did. And Brandon, because I told Brandon this, he was like, okay. And so he wanted me to call him out the next day because he was like, I want to, because he actually had to work. Like I said, my dad was going to take me to my doctor's appointment. So when I told him, he was just kind of like, okay. And he had me call him out of work. So I called him out of work. And he would work morning shifts at Bojangles, so he would wake up at 4 in the morning and work till 12. So I still am friends with her, but I happened to be friends with one of his managers, and I had her number, and I just texted her and I told her what was going on. She was like, okay, girl, I got you, no problem. But the general manager called me, like, that morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's what I woke up to, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning to his boss calling me, and I might be ashamed to admit this, but I was like, I'm not dealing with this. So I just went back to sleep because I was like, Brandon, you deal with it. Your boss, not my problem. Kind of just like went back to sleep, and he was like, I'm not dealing with this either. So he just ignored her. And so Brandon easily went back to sleep. But I started getting some pain in my stomach, and this was 4 o'clock in the morning. I kid you not. So anyways, I called Brandon out, and here we are. I don't think that I had actually woken up from his boss calling me. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm kind of like, I probably was woken up from my body going into labor. But anyways, I couldn't get back to sleep. And I couldn't get back to sleep at all. And I was just curious. So, I decided to text my sister. My sister at this time was always awake pretty early. I think she was kind of like preparing for me to go into labor, but she also worked pretty early, and she had a daughter pretty young too, so she was always up. So I texted her and I told her what had happened, like what was going on. And I remember she said, "Don't go to the hospital until your water breaks." So I was like, okay, I can do that. I can do that, no problem. Well, the pain got really, really bad, so I decided to hop in the bathtub because I thought like that would subdue it or maybe make it go away. So when you're pregnant, if you have Braxton Hicks contractions and you get in the bathtub, they will go away. When you are pregnant and you have contractions that you think are Braxton Hicks, but they end up not being Braxton Hicks, and that's how you can tell the difference between Braxton Hicks and regular contractions is Braxton Hicks contractions will go away in the bathtub, and they won't go away if they're real, if you get in the bathtub. So I called my mom in the bath when I was in the bathtub, and I just told her, like, "Mom, I don't know what's going on. I think I'm in labor." And she told me over the phone. My mom was at work because my mom's a morning manager to this day at McDonald's. So she was at work. She goes, "I can tell from your voice you're in labor. I think you should go to the hospital." And I was like, "No, Alicia told me not to go until my water broke. I'm not going to go. I'm just going to stay here. I already have an appointment at 9 o'clock at the hospital." Because the way the hospital is the hospital was here. My doctor's office was connected to it. Probably because the doctors are lazy and they didn't want to walk across the street where the old office used to be. So that's probably what happened. So, long story short, I was in labor. My dad gets up in the morning because I'm pretty sure my mom called him and told him what was going on, because my dad wakes up early anyways. My dad wakes up early now. So I'm pretty sure my mom told him what was going on. So he's like, I'm sitting in the kitchen chair like this, and my dad like got his hands on my shoulders and he's like, "Breathe, Kira, breathe." He's like coaching me through it because my dad's got 4 kids, including me, so he's been through this quite a few times. So anyways, finally the time comes for my appointment, and so basically, time for my appointment comes around, and Brandon drives me, and my doctor's office and the hospital are about 30 minutes away from where we live, so Brandon, like, literally hit every single bump on the road. And this was during COVID, so Brandon actually could not come up with me to my appointment because technically my doctor's office was connected to the hospital. So he could not come up, and so I went up a flight of stairs by myself in labor. And, so I'm like the first person there, and I'm sitting there, and I get called back. I get examined, and I think I deserve a reward because they did not even realize anything. So I definitely hit it pretty well that I was in pain and I thought I was in labor. So I'm sitting back in the exam room, and I'm waiting for the nurse midwife to come check on me. And I just could not take it anymore, and I burst into tears. I called my mother. I burst into tears. I called my mother, and I just told her, like, "I think I'm in labor." I told my mom I was in labor, and my mom, like, thank God for my mother, because she calmed me down, and she was able to do that while I was in the hospital. She's amazing. And she was so amazing. So, she calmed me down, and while I was on the phone with my mom, the nurse midwife walked in, and I was like, "Hi, Mom, I gotta go." So I told my mom I had to go, and she was like, "Okay, tell me what's going on when you can." So I was like, "Okay." And the nurse midwife comes in, and she's like, obviously just walked in on me on the phone crying to my mother, and so she's like, "What is going on?" I told her, "I think I'm in labor." And she was like, "Okay, so let's just double check." So if you have ever been pregnant, they check you. They check your cervix. They stick your fingers there, and they check your cervix. If you don't know, it hurts like a biatch. Unless you're in labor. I didn't feel it when I was in labor at all. But anyways, I didn't feel it when she checked it. I was just feeling the labor pains. And that was when she came back and she was like, yeah, you're like 8 centimeters dilated. I think we need to get you to the hospital. So that was an experience. So they take me to the hospital. Like they asked me questions that they ask you when you go to the hospital while I was in labor getting ready. Like they were putting me in the hospital gown and everything. They asked me these questions. They were afraid I was gonna run off, so they actually would not let me go get Brandon. So my nurse, God bless her, I still love her to this day, actually had to run out and go get Brandon. I had to describe the car to her, and she found him and she brought him in. So we were in the room, and this was at 9 o'clock, remember. Kai was here by 12 o'clock that day. I remember when they got me in and got me all set up and everything like that, they were like, you know, we're not really confident that you're actually 8 centimeters dilated, so we should check you again. So they did, and they were like, yeah, you're definitely 8 centimeters. So they asked me if I wanted to have an epidural. Now, my thing is that I had gone through 8 centimeters without an epidural by myself. So I was very confident in myself about not having an epidural. So I was like, what's the point of having an epidural? Because I did this already. I really didn't want an epidural, but I didn't leave myself out of it because I knew it could be very painful and I knew I couldn't really take pain at that time. So it wasn't a thing I was absolutely going to say no to. But I mean, in that point in time, I just was like, what's the point? I made it this far without an epidural. What's your epidural going to do for me now? I mean, like, I only got 2 more centimeters to go. Can't be that much longer. In hindsight, it could have been a lot longer even for those 2 centimeters. So don't recommend that, but I did not have an epidural. He was born naturally, like I said, at 12 o'clock that day. I still had a lot of issues. I had to lay on my side because I liked it. That's what they literally said his heart rate would drop if I didn't lay on my side. So I did that. They had to take the vacuum to pull his head out because he got stuck along the way and his heart rate was dropping, so they did that. And I did have preeclampsia, just so you know. They did come in and tell me that I had preeclampsia. So, I did not get to see Kai until the next day of his first day of born. Like, we really didn't happen because I was so tired and I was so on so much medicine. And like I said, I had preeclampsia, so it was pretty bad. Also, the nurses told me I had no idea how close I was to delivering. And also, your water doesn't always break naturally. I didn't know that. So, do not wait until your water breaks. The moral of the story for me is do not wait until your water breaks. But I did have preeclampsia. They did come and tell me, and they said it was genetic through Brandon. Brandon's mom did have preeclampsia with her last child, so yeah. I just think that, like, this story is amazing because my mom had almost the exact same pregnancy as me when she was pregnant with me. Except she didn't have preeclampsia. She just couldn't keep food down and stuff like that. She had to be on medicine to keep food down, so yeah, this was a lot of fun to get to revisit. I really am so glad I have this, and I don't know if I like this Pat McGrath palette. I'm not gonna lie. It just doesn't seem like the best quality, I don't think. I don't know. I'll have to play around with it a little bit more. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'm gonna end it here, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye!